more protests around the world. Now, we talked previous weeks about the protests in Nepal, in UK, in France, in Australia, in a bunch of other places. But the one in Nepal stood out because it was initially a younger generation protest, called a Gen Z protest, basically to begin with against the blocking or the banning of social media sites and apps and systems. And then it evolved into a more generic anti-corruption, anti-nepotism type protest, ended up seeing the collapse of the Nepali government, and, well, they're having some arguments back and forth at the moment. There was some suggestion that they were using Discord to arrange a new government, and the couple of people that put forward seem pretty interesting. Have previously worked and done things in terms of government, but well, see how it goes. Plus, you're then dealing with only a small subset of the population who obviously have a very firm set of ideas on some things. Whether or not that's indicative and representative of the broader population, well, time will tell. Not quite sure at the moment. But what came out last night or this morning is that Madagascar has had its own set of Gen Z protests, as they're calling it. The protest is to do with, initially, lack of utility supply, so lack of poor water and power supply, ultimately. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but that's what they're suggesting. And so the president has come out and said that, right, that's it. Government can't do what they've been told to do, so we're getting rid of the government and obviously going to have to elect again. And so people have been protesting, saying, look, we can't get the power and water and stuff that we need. It, in an almost carbon copy of the Nepalese protests, they've killed at least 22 people in the, I guess, on the protesting side. And so, yep, there's obviously a fair bit of criticism about the degree of force being used by the security forces. That's coming out of the UN, though. Madagascar's saying, no, not quite. But I guess we'll see once things settle down and a bit of time comes in. I mean, was it 19 to 22 were the figures given in the Nepalese protests? And in fact, on that, there's been online commentators who've received copyright strikes because they had footage of the protests recorded by another content producer, but it wasn't the content producer striking them. It was some unknown party at the moment, operating, they believe, out of India, that for whatever reason was placing copyright strikes on the content. People were suggesting it was somebody or a group that wanted to suppress reporting on the protests and what was going on, which is possible. But I don't know how much further that investigation's gone or come to light. But, well, it's a bit hard when people have been copyright struck to be able to go in and dig things up. But, yeah. So, yep, they've protested. The government's basically been decided that, yep, they're going to be dissolved, restarted. The not likely group having a protest and civil disruption is an opportunity for what's the best way to describe it? Well, it's an opportunity for other segments of the population to come out and exploit things. And so what you've got here is a statement from the UN about who the dead were, is, okay, the protesters, bystanders, and then subsequent other violence, looting, etc. Just people engaging in criminal activity because they can. So it appears that they tried to head off the protests by sacking the energy minister, but wasn't enough, and they've pushed through. It's really only being seen, I mean, BBC, the ABC is really where I've seen the articles, and you can see it's only really recent that it's come to light. So, yep, they've dissolved it. They're giving the same sort of figures. If we go to the bottom, okay, so it's from Reuters. So it looks like the information's coming out of, okay, that's a very similar statement to what the BBC had. And so it looks like the BBC rewrote the Reuters report, or the Reuters took their report from the BBC. But yeah, now interesting to note that the president had his initial power base coming in out of a coup, then stepping down in 2014, and then apparently winning in a democratic process after that. So his first time taken power, and the second time he's elected in. So it's interesting to see what goes on. Now, we covered this last time we talked about this at a protest, where they're saying, there's right-wing groups using online apps like Signal and Telegram and WhatsApp and all the other bits and pieces to organise and coordinate movement and things like this and that. But then there were people saying, oh no, we've been using this for the protests that we like. Then there's the idea, but basically, as I pointed out, protests throughout history have always used the available technology at the time for communication and sharing information between each other. So, yeah, so we'll see more information, I guess, come out over time. But to be honest, there's generally not a lot of coverage of African news here in Australia. So I don't know that we're going to see much more. We may see the occasional article because of how many similarities there are with protests in, say, Nepal. But beyond that, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see much more on that, sad to say.